Hey everybody, welcome to The Dose. My name is Brian. This hasn't happened to me in a little while, but as you know, if you've been watching The Dose for any length of time, you know that occasionally my best ideas hit me when I'm like in the middle of working out or doing something. Well, that's what happened to me tonight. So again, my appearance not always the sharpest, but this is a casual video blog. Obviously, right? We're not doing this to impress anybody. We're doing this because we want to share good ideas that are going to help people change their lives and make progress in their lives. And this idea hit me like a ton of bricks, and I had to stop everything that I was doing, walk outside and cool off for a minute, and come back in here and share it with you because I thought it was so incredibly powerful and so incredibly telling because well, let's just begin. Have you ever gotten into a habit that you maybe weren't so crazy about or wasn't doing you a lot of good or wasn't very productive for you? And the answer is, of course you have. Because we all have. We all have them. I don't care how perfect somebody might be or how personally developed they might be. We've all got habits that we wish we could change or that we would like to change or that are not doing us all that much good and we would like to get rid of if we thought we could, but we were kind of comfortable with them and we kind of like having them around because they're like comfort food, right? Though these are bad habits. But have you ever noticed, that whether it's overeating or smoking or gambling or staying up too late or foul language or pick any number of things. So no matter what it is, have you noticed that you didn't make a conscious decision to begin? Just stay with me on this. Did you notice that nobody ever wakes up and goes, you know what? I want a gambling habit. How can I get me some gambling habit? Nobody does that. Nobody wakes up and goes, you know what? I want to smoke 2 packs of cigarettes every day until I'm dead. Nobody does that. Nobody goes, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to eat myself heavy by about 200 pounds and then get, bad cholesterol and high blood pressure and have heart problems. I think that's what I'll do. Nobody does that. So how do we find ourselves in these situations? And you've heard the old cliche, right? That a bad habit's like a warm bed. It's easy to get into and hard to get out of. And there's truth in that. But I'm going to give you the science behind it right now. I'm going to let you know why it is that we find ourselves there. Guys, look, bad habits or bad conditions or bad circumstances in life don't just happen like that. They're the result or the effect of a cause, and that cause is a poor decision. But what happens is poor decisions or poor behaviors gone unpunished will be repeated. That is the nature of human beings. We're like water. We follow the path of least resistance. It's easier to eat the cheesecake than not to. It's easier to skip the gym than it is to go. It's easier to yell at your kids than to sit down and reason with them. It's easier to smoke if all your friends smoke than it is not to smoke. It's easier to spend all the money in your pocket when you're in a casino in Vegas than it is to be conservative and just say, I came here to gamble this amount of money, that's all I'm going to do. It's easier to get into bad habits. It's easier to engage in behaviors that lead to bad habits. So because we're like water, because as human beings, by our very nature, we follow the path of least resistance, not given conscious and positive energy to the direction of our decisions will always err to what's easiest or has the least amount of conflict or requires the least amount of effort. Just know that. That's you, that's me, that's our parents, that's our kids, that's our grandparents, that's Mother Teresa, Pope Francis, and the garbage man, and the homeless guy in the corner, and everybody in between. It's all of us. It's all of us. We all do this. So what happens is if a poor behavior gone unpunished is repeated because we all follow the path of least resistance, then a poor behavior gone unpunished looks like I'll smoke a cigarette because all my friends are smoking a cigarette and I'm not coughing, I don't feel poorly. So what's the big deal? Next time I go out, I'm having a beer or a glass of wine, and maybe I'll smoke another cigarette. And then maybe I'll find myself smoking cigarettes every weekend after a couple of weeks, but it's not a big deal. I don't feel bad, I'm not coughing, I don't smell, my house doesn't smell. Like there's no negative side effects to the smoking business. I don't know what the big deal is. And next thing you know, it hadn't killed me so far, maybe I'll have a cigarette after work today. And 15 years later, in that scenario, that individual smoking 2 packs a day has all kinds of health issues, lung problems, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, heart issues, and all the rest of it. because those behaviors in the beginning had gone unpunished, and the path of least resistance was to repeat them. Are you guys picking up what I'm putting down? Bad habits creep up on you. They're insidious. They're almost never a conscious decision to get into a bad habit, and people never go into that original behavior with the intent of creating a long-term habit that's going to be destructive for them. So we know why we get into them now. We know how it happens, but how do you get out of them? And the answer is that you have to apply conscious effort and thought to your behaviors. Because again, left unchecked, right? Without conscious effort and energy put into the decisions you make, you will always, by default, follow the path of least resistance. So it takes conscious effort to pull against that natural tendency and take the high road, take the stairs, if you will, like Mr. Rory Vaden says, in choosing your behaviors. But again, correcting bad or poor habits is also insidious. The results of making good decisions is just as slow and cumulative as the consequences of bad ones. So what happens is somebody goes, my health stinks. I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to go to the gym. And they go to the gym one day and they come back and they go, I don't feel any different. And they go another day and they come back and they go, I'm not really noticing any difference. And here's the bad part. They go for 2 or 3 months and don't notice a difference. And before you know it, they're only going twice a week, and then 1 day a week, and then they went twice last month, and then, because I never saw any results with that anyway. But the results from the good behaviors are just as insidious and slow and compounding as the consequences of the poor behaviors. So that same individual, had they stayed in the gym, might have began to see results in month 4 or 5, and in month 8 or 9 would have been a dramatic transformation. Have you ever noticed it seems like you pick up a habit like eating a little bit more when you go to the buffet or something, then you wake up when you're 35 and you go, where did all this weight come from? It's like it happens overnight. It doesn't happen overnight. It's cumulative, but you don't notice it until the effect is so large that it garners your attention. And the same is true on the positive side. When you're making positive efforts in positive directions to change your life, the results are not always in your face. In fact, sometimes the results come on so slowly that you don't even see them happening. And it's the compound effect of those repeated good behaviors over and over and over again that will bring about the positive change in your life. But that's difficult to do because you don't see the results. So just like a poor behavior gone unpunished will be repeated by our human nature, a good behavior gone unrewarded is likely to not be repeated given our human nature. So we have to make the conscious, willful effort to repeat those good behaviors enough times to begin to see the reinforcing reward of our efforts. And when that reinforcing reward begins to flow in, when you begin to see the changes in your body, when you begin to feel the effects of better health, when you begin to experience better relationships with your spouse and with your children, when you begin to feel better, sound better, look better, when people begin to like you more, when your relationships begin to improve, when your financial situation begins to improve, when your bank account starts getting larger, when you begin to reap the rewards of the positive behaviors, you will begin to repeat those unconsciously, and they'll become good habits that replace the bad ones. But the path to swing the pendulum from poor behaviors to good ones is hard. And without that positive reinforcement in the beginning, most people will bail on their attempts to change. And that's why New Year's resolutions don't work. But see, that's not for you and I, because we understand that the acorn becomes the oak, but it takes time. So we're going to put the time and the energy in to apply those good behaviors to our lives so we can get the long-term positive results. And that's the dose, guys. That's the formula for a new life right there.